Help and hope after some of this year's biggest tragedies. Good evening and thanks for joining us for this special edition of Faith Nation from our Washington News Bureau. I'm John Jessup. Well, it was a shock no one saw coming. In August, wildfires set the Hawaiian island of Maui ablaze with flames that grew to become the deadliest in state history. More than 100 died. In the face of tragedy, moments of relief. Churches and humanitarian aid groups, including CBN's Operation Blessing, got right to work, helping residents find hope and new life after adversity. CBN's Wendy Griffith brings us this look at their work.
Some are calling this a miracle. A Catholic church in Lahaina appears to have survived, even though burned houses are all around it. A sign of hope for residents, which is exactly what the staff of Harvest Kumalani Church in Maui is trying to give people.
And that hope is Jesus. And our desire is to spread the love of Jesus. I saw it on Sunday. We had an incredible service. We had over 600 people show up. And that's without telling anybody that there's no cell service around here right now. Our God is the God of hope, and He's a healer. And this place needs that more than anything.
And those who've lost everything need basic necessities. That's why Harvest Kumalani is teaming up with relief organizations to bring aid to the victims. CBN's Operation Blessing is working with Youth with a Mission to send needed relief items like generators, gas grills, tents, tarps, and clothes to those in need.
I've been coming here since the 70s, and it hasn't changed dramatically.
Just last month, Harvest Kumalani's senior pastor Greg Laurie and I walked down the streets of Lahaina that were busy with tourists and shoppers and stood under the now famous banyan tree, a gift to the island in 1873 by missionaries from India.
In this tree, you said you preached under this tree.
Yeah. So I came here with a Christian band in the early 70s and preached here. I came with another band in the 80s.
Even though the flames consumed many of the historic landmarks, the tree, which covers almost 2 acres, appears to have survived. Pastor Laurie says it's another sign of hope.
And I think when we're rooted in Christ, we can survive anything. And that's really a picture of the people, especially the Christians on Maui. You know, their faith is strong, but many of them have lost literally everything. They've lost their homes. They have lost their livelihood. And even more tragically, so many have lost their lives.
Pastor Laurie says he believes Harvest Kumalani, the Maui branch of his LA-based church, is there for such a time as this.
And we've had our own people take other folks into their homes, and everybody has a roof over their head and a meal in their stomach. And so this is what the church does best. You know, we can shine in times of difficulty.
He says the question now shouldn't be why, but what?
Like, what do we do? Well, what we do is we step in and we help people in the name of Jesus Christ. We give them food, we give them water, but more than that, we give them hope. And that is what we are hoping and planning on doing really in the years ahead. The relief efforts will come in, buildings will be rebuilt, but lives are lost, and our work as a church on the island will carry on as we try to bring both help and hope to people on the island of Maui.
Wendy Griffith, CBN News.
Well, from wildfires to earthquakes, this year was marked by natural disasters around the world, including Turkey and Syria, struck by a massive 7.8 earthquake February that created a humanitarian crisis for tens of millions. CBN Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell traveled to the quake zone in the days following the disaster, and as he reported back then at the time, the road to recovery will take years.
The devastation of destroyed buildings, homes, and businesses stretches nearly 300 miles. This graphic shows the destruction zone in Turkey after those 2 massive earthquakes and dozens of aftershocks. As a comparison, it's the same area north of New York City to south of Washington, D.C., including New Jersey, Maryland, Delaware, and part of Pennsylvania. The country faces a massive rebuilding program. Millions of Turkish citizens are suffering from post-traumatic stress from the harrowing and traumatic experiences like Abdul Karim Arsarim.
The ground floor of our building was gone. They threw a rope. I tied my children and they went down. Then my wife. Then me. Of course, there were no socks, no shoes. Then the building collapsed. We didn't believe we could be rescued. We thought death had come at that moment.
The combined death toll between Turkey and Syria stands at about 37,000, with tens of thousands more injured and left homeless. To provide material support and hope to the Turkish people, CBN's Operation Blessing mobilized within hours of the earthquake and recruited volunteers like Karen Cochran.
As soon as the earthquake happened, I was like, I got to get on the ground and help in any way I can. So I got connected with Operation Blessings and Diego, and here we are. This is just incredible. I was just thinking, we have almost 10 nations represented here. We have Ukraine and Belarus and Brazilians, so it's really amazing. And just to be able to be a part of bringing any aid and relief to the Turkish people in this time.
Diego Traverso, Operation Blessings International Director of Disaster Relief, says Turkey is a critical place to be.
Because we want to be in the center of the action, where the people need it, where not only the people that is in suffering, keep praying. Partners of CBN Operation Blessing, keep praying for us, keep praying for the victims, keep praying for our volunteers, for our teams. We're deploying right now. Our experts are going to be arriving in the next couple of hours. Water engineer, doctor, health team. The help is so needed.
After nearly 1 year, residents in an Ohio town still dealing with the environmental effects of a train derailment that created a chemical crisis. The question remains, how toxic is it? Back in early February, a train derailed in the town of East Palestine, Ohio, spilling thousands of pounds of toxic chemicals. Residents there still fear the air they breathe and the water they drink. As Brody Carter reported, in the days following the spill, locals banded together to comfort those in need within their own community.
This is a heavy-duty gas mask. We brought it just for safety. On the other side of this building are the train tracks. That's where they're digging up the soil, and you can really smell a burning rubber, a chlorine scent that's in the air. Over here, families forced to endure that smell, and it's ridiculous to think that they'd have to wear a gas mask just to protect their families.
To me, it smells like kind of like a burning plastic.
Smelling odors doesn't necessarily mean you're going to have health effects.
Health concerns, how, are we safe? We don't know.
As you can imagine, talk around East Palestine, Ohio remains centered on February's derailment and chemical spill.
We're estimating somewhere between 60 and 100,000 tons of contaminated material are going to come out of that area. So it's significant.
You could just see the flames. They were higher than the house when they evacuated us.
About half of the town's 5,000 residents evacuated after the accident due to a catastrophic failure in the train car's overheated wheel bearing.
And so really this is kind of a miracle that it happened where it did.
Concerns remain centered around the safety of drinking water, air quality, and contaminated soil. The fear of the unknown, however, could be the biggest worry here in East Palestine.
I look at my son and his wife who just bought their house and are raising the grandchildren, and I just wonder, is this a good place for them to raise them now?
Those who want to leave can't, because trying to sell a home or business has become so difficult.
We've been here 17 years.
Dwayne Doyle, owner of Doyle's Fresh Meat and Deli, knows the frustration all too well. He had planned to sell the shop and retire with his wife. Then the unexpected happened.
They were just afraid of the unknown, and so they decided not to do it.
This is as close as we can get to the actual train derailment. You can see behind me more than 2 months later, Norfolk Southern and the EPA working together to clean the ground soil next to the train tracks. Locals tell me if this would have happened any closer to the town center, it would have been much more devastating.
By the grace of God that nobody was killed or hurt, and I hope that in the long run, it works out for the town.
Only now, it's a waiting game to measure the long-term impact of dangerous chemicals left behind in the air, water, and soil.
There was over 900,000 pounds of vinyl chloride in this railcar. It's our job to make sure that anything that may be left behind are not at levels that could ever be a health concern to residents or to the ecology in the area.
The EPA will be on site for months, helping clean and monitor toxins, while shipping contaminated soil and water to deep well injection sites.
We inject the contaminants several miles into the earth that will never be accessed again by human hands.
Just want my kid to be able to drink out of the hose one day.
Folks like Zachary Schultz are looking for long-term solutions for the people who live here.
This covers your whole house. We just don't have the research to be able to tell you that it's at a safe level to drink it.
Schultz is working with a nearby church to use an anonymous donation from Texas to buy and install roughly 70 carbon water filtration systems for homes in the affected area.
We saw this as an open door for God to do something and for us to tangibly love those people that are around us.
Yeah, we don't drink a whole lot from the faucet directly.
Sue and Randy Dunlap are one of the families getting a filter. While there's no guarantee it can remove all contamination, they hope some protection is better than nothing.
You don't know what you don't know. You just got to make a choice and say, okay, this is what I'm going to do.
For some, this has become a crisis of uncertainty due to the long-term impact of the derailment and spill. Pastor Saveco, though, sees a resilient community leaning on their faith that God will heal their land. As East Palestine residents look toward the future, he seeks to reassure them that God is their refuge and strength, ever present in times of trouble.
Houses can be replaced, jobs can be replaced, but people, family, relationships can't. And through all of this, there hasn't been one loss of life. And so that's just incredible in and of itself. So I think that's a focal point where people are readjusting their values.
Reporting in East Palestine, Ohio, Brody Carter, CBN News.
Well, at the heart of calls for gun control, the people whose lives have been forever changed by firearms, like parents and children in Nashville who faced their own shocking firsthand horror of gun violence earlier this year when a shooter opened fire on a Christian school, killing 6. As CBN Charlene Aaron reports, with grief and devastation came unthinkable acts of kindness.
March 27th, a day that forever changed this Nashville community due to the deadly shooting at Covenant Presbyterian School. Residents here, many who are Christians, continue to rely on their faith for comfort and strength, a faith that offers hope and healing as they seek to move forward. From scenes of chaos to ones of calm, life in Nashville appears to be back to normal, although it hasn't been easy.
We heard the sirens going by and knew something was up.
Nathan Parker serves as senior pastor at Woodmont Baptist Church, where parents waited anxiously to see their children that tragic day.
So we went outside and there were already families in our parking lot running towards the door. Within, seconds, there were tons of police on site, and they said, where do we put these families, these parents? And I said, I think the sanctuary would be a good space.
Space that served as both a physical and spiritual refuge.
I think the prayers of our saints and the prayers of saints around the world who were lifting our church and these families to the Lord during that time provided a supernatural covering of peace, of calm. Families, there were some times of grief and some intense mourning, but for the most part, it was very peaceful and calm.
Aaron and Mary Joyce joined those waiting in the pews, not knowing if their daughter, Monroe, a third grader at the school, was safe.
My faith was being challenged, and it was really hard. I mean, it almost felt like you're trapped in a nightmare.
Once reunited, it would be weeks before the 9-year-old would open up about how she hid from the shooter firing at fellow students.
She said, Mommy, I was really still and really quiet. Everyone else was crying, and I was the only one not crying. And I still don't know how she wasn't seen. She saw the shooter, and she saw the gun sticking through their door, just going off. I still don't know what protected her that day, except for God.
This violence at a Christian school has shattered this community's illusions of safety.
At this point, it can happen anywhere.
While grateful to still hold their daughter, the Joyces say seeing the pain of friends who lost children in the shooting has been unbearable.
I can't imagine not being able to tuck in my child or squeeze my child. I would do anything to give that feeling back to my friends.
It is a pain shared by Anna Caudle. She had been a longtime friend of Catherine Kuntz, the head of Covenant School, one of the 6 killed that day.
And I kept thinking, okay, well, she must be talking to the police at this point, or
she must still be in the building, or she must be making sure that the kids are getting on the buses.
Caudle recalls Koontz as a selfless, devoted educator and a woman grounded in faith.
I've described her as a tree with roots that just reach down so far in her faith, and branches that provide shade and nurture and sustenance for everyone within her reach.
As the investigation continues into why former student Audrey Hale carried out the attack, her parents have turned over her so-called manifesto to the Covenant school families. Despite efforts to make the writings public, Covenant parents are fighting to keep them sealed, out of concern about possible copycat shootings. CBN News asked the Joyces about this push, but they declined to answer, citing legal reasons. Deborah Fisher of Tennessee's Coalition for Open Government says if a judge prevents the release, it would set a bad precedent.
The victims and the school and the church want the court to recognize new law, to create new law in Tennessee that would allow basically a victim's veto over releasing evidence in a crime, or churches or schools or anyone with a property right, their veto. And so we think that that is not the road to go.
In the meantime, many are turning to God for answers.
Church attendance throughout this area was boosted in those weeks after the shooting as people turned to the Lord for help, for not just answers, but for comfort, for encouragement, for healing.
Dr. Stephen Freeman of Grace Baptist Church in nearby Springfield also sees God moving in a special way.
We pray for even the opportunity through something like this tragedy happening, that we can point people to the Lord.
Ministry has been extending to the shooter's family.
One of the things that stunned me to learn was that the Covenant families had pulled together and paid for the funeral of Audrey Hale, the shooter.
A clear example, one of the finest examples of Christian love that I think could ever be expressed.
I mean, it's absolutely necessary. It's the point. She was, not raised completely in that community, but she was a part of it for a minute. And unfortunately, through degrees at a time, got completely lost. And I don't think we allow that to sever her parents' need for love.
A love Parker says can heal the community and overcome any evil.
In this world, we will have tribulation, as Jesus told us, but we can take heart because he has overcome this world. He's overcome all the divisions, all the violence, the injustice, that our hope is in this new heaven, the new earth that he's coming to bring.
Charlene Aaron, CBN News, Nashville, Tennessee.
Welcome back. Nearly 2 years into Russia's military invasion of Ukraine, many of the injured bear not only physical and visible wounds, but also unseen emotional pain, too. Ukrainian chaplains offer spiritual healing to those wounds. CBN contributor Chuck Holton reports on the growing demand for these caregivers of the soul.
This Ukrainian medic's GoPro camera video reveals the war's chaos. An artillery shell explodes near his car, wounding him before he can ensure his patient's safety. Despite his injuries, he persists in his mission of caring for comrades, highlighting these heroes' crucial role. Once the wounded arrive at the aid station, Army chaplains immediately comfort and pray for them.
We call them hospitaliers. They only work in hospitals, intensive care units, amputees, psychiatric clinics. And also there's narco clinics that we work with, and lots of soldiers do get addicted because of the stress, PTSD that they face, and they cannot cope with it, so we need to work with them. They're struggling. Lots of them lost their families.
While medics can treat the physical injuries, emotional trauma persists. With a shortage of medics, chaplains often take on the responsibility, providing aid and healing to both soldiers and civilians. Many chaplains maintain strong personal connections to the area, which can intensify their challenges.
Lots of them have their families in occupied territory. At this moment, they cannot do anything to it. So we have problems. The chaplains I work with, they go front lines. We go all the way across the front line. In my team, we've got 2 women, both of us mothers of 5.
Christian Hickey, an American Green Beret and ex-police officer, relocated to Ukraine last year, committed to helping these chaplains.
Chaplaincy is not something that's been around at all in Ukraine. It was just officially established in 2022 after the war started. It had unofficially started in 2014. But now I sit on a board where I can actually have direct insight and give great advice on how the chaplaincy corps should work and help train those chaplains so they can go out and help soldiers who are seeking answers, who are looking for something, and this reveal Christ to them right there in the trenches.
Chaplains recognize the critical nature of their mission.
If a soldier is conscious, then we talk to them. We hold their hands. We try to take their attention away from their wounds. Medics like us because they like to work with chaplains because we stabilize them.
This mission is so important. It's the person on the ground, Russian or Ukrainian, who are fighting each other, who are dying, and who are needing some sort of help. We want to stand in solidarity, say, hey, we love you, we're here to support you, and to give them something that's everlasting. It's not something that's internal, not something that's going to go away after we leave.
What we want to do is we want to preach the pure gospel, just like pray to them, lead them to Jesus, take their hands, and like literally pray and they accept Jesus Christ in their hearts.
The wartime horrors can affect the chaplains as deeply as the soldiers. Katerina reflects on her emotions just after hearing of a friend's death.
If you ask me to describe what war is, I'd probably use one word to describe it. It's just a waste. It's just a waste of money, resources, waste of lives, waste of where sometimes we run out of strength. There's just a waste of a whole country, and it's absolutely pointless. Absolutely, at the end, nobody wins.
Chuck Holton, CBN News, Ukraine.
The meaningful and enduring and important work of military chaplains. Well, that's going to do it for this edition of Faith Nation. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great night.